There was a time when that red hat with four letters, Mac, Make America Great Again, was almost sacred to millions of Americans. They wore it on their heads like they were wearing their faith, their anger, and their hope for a better life. The hat wasn't just a hat, it was a silent pledge. We are fed up with this system, and that man will be the one who breaks it. But now those same people are pointing their cameras at themselves, tossing that same red hat into a fire, and staring straight into the lens while hurling curses at Donald Trump. Those videos are spreading all over social media, like witness statements in a criminal case, where the defendant is a former president, and the victim is the trust of the very people who once worshipped him the most. To understand what's happening, we have to go back to 2016. Back then, every Trump rally looked like a concert. Crowds lined up for hours, holding signs, wearing MAGA hats, loud music, shouted slogans, chants against the elites, fake news, and the Washington swamp sent the crowds into a frenzy. For many, Trump was a punch in the face of the system, not a career politician, vulgar in his language, afraid of no one. They saw in him something they called authentic, even when that authenticity came in the form of statements no one else would dare say publicly. And it wasn't just extremists in those crowds. There were truck drivers, single moms, veterans, retirees living on fixed incomes, factory workers who'd lost their jobs when plants shut down. They felt abandoned, unrepresented, and they believed that the red hat and the name Trump would bring them back to the center of the story. Yet years later, a different scene appears. A middle-aged man stands in his backyard, holding a faded MAGA hat in his hand, staring into his camera. He says that hat followed him to Trump rallies in Topeka, Kansas in 2016 and 2017. Then, without hesitation, he tosses it into a fire. Fuck up, you, Donald. You're not making America great anymore. You're making us ashamed. Videos like that aren't one-offs. They're a small but noisy wave across social media. Former MAGA supporters filming themselves burning hats, shirts, Trump 2020 signs, and reading out their personal indictments of Donald Trump. They say they feel betrayed, not just politically angry, personally deceived. In those videos, you hear the same themes repeated. Trump has put America last, covered for the Epstein child trafficking network, lied when he claimed Americans are living in a golden age while in reality, they're barely scraping by. They look at their own lives, rent, gas, groceries, medicine, then look at a screen where Trump talks about great success and a golden era, and they see a gap that can't be bridged. For many, this isn't just political disappointment, it feels like falling for a rug pull. They were called into a movement, promised change, poured emotion, time, and their own reputation into it, only to realize the person benefiting the most may not have been them. But there's something important here. When they turn their backs on Trump, not all of them turn their backs on conservatism or the ideology they once believed in. Many aren't saying, I'm not conservative anymore. They're saying, I'm not with Trump anymore. I'm with America First. In their minds, America First has split away from Trump. And standing at the front line of that split, two names appear again and again: Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG, and Thomas Massie. To a portion of former MAGA supporters, MTG and Massie look like the ones willing to say the unsayable, not bowing to anyone, especially regarding the Epstein files. When MTG demanded the release of the names associated with Jeffrey Epstein's child sex trafficking ring, when she rejected the idea that those files should be hidden in the name of stability, she hit a raw nerve in American politics. And when she implied, or outright said, that Trump wasn't being honest in painting the economy as stronger than it felt to ordinary people, that life for Americans was not golden, as he claimed, a new line began to form. On one side, people who still see Trump as the center. On the other, those who now call themselves true America First, even while remaining on the right. After those statements, MTG says she was hit with a new wave of threats. For a woman in politics, attacks aren't new, but she says this wave felt different. Private security firms contacted her, warning that things were heating up. Her daughter posted a public message asking people to pray for her mother and admitting fear for her safety. MTG wrote that harsh rhetoric against her in the past had led to real-world threats and even criminal convictions of men radicalized by that kind of language. This time, she emphasized, that rhetoric was coming from the very man she had once championed, Donald Trump. As a woman, she said, she has to take threats from men driven by that tone extremely seriously. Meanwhile, images from Mar-a-Lago paint a very different picture. Trump appears on a golf course walking alongside Lindsey Graham, a man many MAGA supporters had spent years labeling a rhino, a fake conservative, a sellout. Photos of the two smiling, joking, hosting Trump-Graham Golf Classic fundraisers for the Republican Party create a visual contrast that former loyalists find hard to ignore. To them, Trump no longer looks like a man standing shoulder to shoulder with ordinary people. He's golfing with the politicians they used to hate, sitting at tables with billionaires, appearing beside names linked to global wealth and power. And during all this, he's posting that America is in a golden age, that investments are flowing in and jobs are booming. For many who used to cheer for him, those words feel like a slap in the face. Alongside the unknown faces burning hats online, some high-profile pro-Trump figures have started to break publicly as well. Candace Owens. Once seen as a fiery megaphone for young conservatives who long defended Trump, now says bluntly that he is a chronic disappointment. She says she feels embarrassed for urging others to vote for him, assuring them that certain things would never happen under his watch, things she now sees unfolding. This is not the man I voted for, she admits. Podcaster Tim Dillon describes the current phase as a lame duck period, a time when a major political figure is still visible, still loud, still dominating attention, but the respect and loyalty of his base are quietly draining away. All of this doesn't happen in a vacuum. A crucial puzzle piece is the Epstein files. Documents related to Jeffrey Epstein's network of abuse, which has become a symbol of the darkest collusion between money, power, and exploitation of minors. When MTG and others on the right called for full disclosure, names, documents, no exceptions regardless of party or position, some of their supporters saw that as a moral test. This is the moment to prove who truly stands against evil and who only postures. In contrast, some Trump-aligned Republicans dismissed the whole thing as an Epstein hoax, claiming it was just a distraction tactic to weaken Trump. They announced they would vote no on releasing the files. The backlash was intense. Under posts like that, a flood of comments, many from self-declared conservatives, accused them of protecting pedophiles, dubbing them the Pedo Protection Program. MTG treated this as a warning to her Republican colleagues. If they voted to block transparency on Epstein, they'd face genuine public outrage, especially from women who already distrusted the GOP. All of this feeds into a growing perception among some former supporters that the movement they joined years ago has veered off course. In the early years, they believed MAGA meant standing up to corrupt elites, exposing the dark networks, refusing to protect powerful abusers. Now they see Trump cozying up to people they distrust, downplaying demands for transparency around Epstein, and attacking those within his own camp simply for asking questions. To them, the slogan no longer matches the promise. At a deeper level, the story reads like a true crime narrative, but in the political realm. Psychologically, any mass movement that centers heavily on a single leader tends to reach a similar moment. The followers begin to notice that the leader's lifestyle doesn't match his words, that the slogan "we all win" may really just mean "I win, you pay the price," and that the values they thought they were using to attack the old system have become tools for a new kind of personal empire. That's a deeply painful realization. Some people choose denial to avoid the pain, doubling down, explaining away every contradiction. Others can't bear it, and their disappointment turns into anger, like the people throwing their red hats into the fire. Of course, not every accusation, analysis, or emotional outburst we see is pure objective truth. These are fragments of feeling, subjective accounts, viewpoints from people who now feel betrayed. But whether we agree with them or not, they reveal a striking phenomenon. The emotional trajectory of part of Trump's former base is changing. Figures like Candace Owens, Tim Dillon, and other conservative commentators have begun to distinguish between conservatism and Trump, between America first and Trump first. Some Democratic politicians advise against mocking these disillusioned MAGA voters, arguing that, strategically, this could be a crucial moment when they realize that the strongest threat to them may not be the other side, but the people who claim to speak for them. This story, of course, isn't over. In American politics, it's very hard to say anyone is finished for good. A politician can plummet in support one day and spark a new wave the next. But under the lens of a political documentary, this feels like the middle act of a film. The main character's darker side is fully revealed, secondary characters begin to walk away. And the looming question is, where does the crowd go now? Those burning red hats in the videos aren't just made of fabric and plastic. They are symbols of a trust that's been set on fire. When that man takes the hat that followed him to rallies in 2016, tosses it into the flames and says, "You betrayed us," he isn't just breaking with a politician. He's declaring the end of a chapter in his own life, a chapter where he placed too much hope in a single person, wrapped all his anger, his dreams, and his desire for a miracle into the figure of a strong hero on a stage. When the fire dies down, only black ash remains, and one unanswered question hangs in the air, a question no one can answer for them. Where will their new faith, if they have any left, go next? Into another person? Into principles, institutions, data, ordinary debate? Into a new movement with a new name? Or into the hard-earned clarity that comes from finally waking up? This story has no final chapter yet. It's just one more entry in the long case file about the relationship between leaders and crowds, between promises and reality, between belief and awakening. But whatever side you're on, one lesson stands out. When everything is placed on the shoulders of a single man, the crash, if and when it comes, will always echo very, very far.